On September 7, 1936, Charles Hardin Holly entered the world in Lubbock, Texas, during the heart of the Great Depression. Known to the world as Buddy Holly, his life, though brief, rewrote the rules of popular music. His horn-rimmed glasses, hiccuping vocal delivery, and jangly guitar rhythms became instantly recognizable. But behind the trademark look was a man who combined raw talent, relentless ambition, and groundbreaking musical instincts into a legacy that still shapes the sounds of modern rock. The youngest of 4 children, Buddy grew up in a tight-knit Baptist household. His mother nicknamed him Buddy early on, finding his birth name too formal for a boy with such bright energy. Music coursed through the Holly household. His older brothers played instruments, and by age 11, Buddy had outgrown the fiddle and piano and convinced his parents to buy him an acoustic guitar from a pawn shop. With his brother Travis as his first teacher, Buddy practiced obsessively. Music became more than a pastime. It was his calling. By high school, Buddy had teamed up with his friend Bob Montgomery, forming the duo Buddy and Bob. They played a mixture of country and bluegrass on Lubbock's KDAV radio and at local venues. His early musical influences included Hank Williams, Bill Monroe, and the Carter family, but late-night radio introduced him to rhythm and blues. He began tuning into distant stations that played black artists like Muddy Waters and B.B. King, sounds that thrilled and transformed him. In 1955, his musical compass shifted dramatically after seeing Elvis Presley live. The raw charisma and fusion of genres left an indelible impression. Overnight, Buddy veered from country to rock and roll. That year, he opened for Presley 3 times, and later for Bill Haley and his Comets. A Nashville scout named Eddie Crandall caught one of his shows and secured him a recording contract with Decca Records. But his time with Decca was stifling. Confined to the label's country expectations and handed pre-selected session musicians, Buddy struggled to make his own voice heard. The recordings, including Blue Days, Black Nights, and Modern Don Juan, failed to gain traction. In 1957, Decca dropped him, yet that disappointment cleared the path for the artist Buddy was destined to become. Returning to Lubbock, Buddy linked up with producer Norman Petty in Clovis, New Mexico. Here, he found creative freedom. With Jerry Allison on drums, Joe B. Malden on bass, and Nicky Sullivan on rhythm guitar, he formed the Crickets. Their first session produced the re-recorded version of That'll Be the Day, a song previously discarded by Decca. Inspired by a line from the John Wayne film The Searchers, the track exploded onto the charts. Released under the name The Crickets to sidestep legal issues with Decca, the song hit #1 in both the U.S. and U.K. Over the next year, Buddy and the Crickets blazed across the airwaves with anthems like Peggy Sue, Oh Boy, Swingin' Maybe Baby, and Not Fade Away. His solo recordings, such as Rave On and Every Day, showcased a broader emotional range. His albums, The Chirping Crickets and the self-titled Buddy Holly, confirmed his status as a rock phenomenon. His meticulous approach to recording, including double-tracking vocals and manipulating reverb, anticipated studio practices still in use decades later. Buddy's image was unconventional. In an era when teen idols were marketed as suave and clean-cut, Buddy's slim frame, shy smile, and thick glasses set him apart. Yet audiences connected with his humility and sincerity. Behind the scenes, however, conflicts brewed. Disputes over royalties and creative direction drove a wedge between him and Petty. The Crickets remained loyal to the producer, leaving Buddy to strike out on his own. Amid professional upheaval, Buddy's personal life took a romantic turn. While visiting Pure Southern Music in New York, he met Maria Elena Santiago, a young receptionist originally from Puerto Rico. He proposed on their first date. Less than 2 months later, on August 15, 1958, they married. Their union was not without tension. Cultural differences and Buddy's relentless pace strained the relationship, but they shared a deep affection. Tragically, she would suffer a miscarriage the day after learning of his death. Now living in New York and separated from the Crickets, Buddy sought fresh artistic avenues. He took acting classes with Lee Strasberg, recorded string-backed ballads like Raining in My Heart and It Doesn't Matter Anymore, and envisioned genre-bending collaborations with soul and gospel artists like Mahalia Jackson and Ray Charles. But money pressures mounted. Royalties were tied up in legal battles, and he was forced to find quick-paying work. That led to the ill-fated Winter Dance Party Tour. The 24-city tour across the frozen Midwest began in January 1959 and was plagued by logistical nightmares. The travel was brutal, with musicians trapped in unheated buses that broke down frequently. Drummer Carl Bunch ended up hospitalized with frostbite. Tired, cold, and desperate for a break, Buddy chartered a small plane to take himself and 2 others to the next stop in Moorhead, Minnesota. Originally meant to carry his bandmates Tommy Allsup and Waylon Jennings, the seats instead went to J.P., the Big Bopper Richardson and 17-year-old Richie Valens after a coin toss. Just after midnight on February 3, 1959, their Beechcraft Bonanza took off into snowy darkness from Mason City, Iowa. The pilot, Roger Peterson, was unqualified for instrument-only flight and disoriented in the storm. Moments later, the plane nosedived into a frozen cornfield. All 4 on board died instantly. Buddy Holly was just 22. News of his death swept across the world. Maria Elena, newly pregnant, was watching television when the bulletin aired. She collapsed. The next day, she lost their unborn child. Buddy's funeral took place on February 7th at the Tabernacle Baptist Church in Lubbock. He was buried with his favorite Fender Stratocaster, his headstone inscribed with the correct spelling of his birth surname, Holly. The crash that killed Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper soon became known as "the day the music died," a phrase immortalized in Don McLean's 1971 anthem, American Pie. But the music didn't die that day. In truth, it was just beginning. Buddy left behind an unfinished trove of recordings. Coral Records issued several posthumous singles, many built from apartment demos he'd made with a tape recorder. Hits like Peggy Sue Got Married and Crying, Waiting, Hoping were fleshed out with studio backing musicians. Though never intended for release in that form, they extended his presence across the 1960s. For a decade after his death, his label continued to release albums, ensuring his songs stayed in public consciousness. The Beatles often credited Buddy as a foundational figure in their development. John Lennon mimicked his vocal quirks. Paul McCartney eventually bought the rights to his song catalog. The Rolling Stones covered "Not Fade Away" in one of their earliest hits. Bob Dylan, who saw Buddy perform 2 nights before the crash, later recalled the encounter as mystical. Bruce Springsteen, Elvis Costello, Eric Clapton, and countless others have cited Holly as a vital spark in their artistic formation. In the decades that followed, Lubbock slowly came to embrace its native son. A statue in his honor was unveiled in 1980. The Buddy Holly Center opened in 1999, housing artifacts including his iconic glasses, recovered months after the crash. His life became the subject of films like The Buddy Holly Story, 1978, documentaries, and stage musicals. His posthumous honors include induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Buddy's music redefined the possibilities of rock. He helped shape the 4-piece rock band format, 2 guitars, bass, and drums, that countless groups would emulate. He broke from tradition by writing his own material and securing control over the production process. He didn't shout or strut. He crafted songs that felt intimate and immediate. Every Day whispers with innocence. Rave On bursts with giddy anticipation. His lyrics captured teenage confusion, desire, joy, and heartache in under 3 minutes. Even in his final days, he continued to create. In a Greenwich Village apartment, Far from the Texas plains of his youth, he recorded his last batch of songs on a home reel-to-reel machine. One of them, Learning the Game, tells of heartache and growth. There's something almost prophetic in the melancholy of those final recordings, a quiet brilliance tinged with the knowledge that love and life are often fleeting. Buddy Holly lived fast, but not recklessly. He chased music with purpose, experimented with courage, and treated every track as a piece of his soul. Though his voice was silenced in an instant, his influence has echoed for generations. He may have doubted rock's longevity during one early interview, musing whether the sound would fade in 6 months. But history has proven otherwise. More than 60 years later, his songs still play. Young bands still find him. Fans still discover him. And somewhere, every night, a stage curtain rises, and those first twangs of a Stratocaster ring out in tribute to a boy from Lubbock who changed everything,